Hey there, BookTube. So I'm back with a little reading update. This is going to be my sort of October/November reading update, and then I'll post another one at the end of December. Maybe do a full 2021 retrospective at the end of December. But I guess we're about halfway through December now. But anyway. Here's so first up, I don't have the hard copies of all of these, so but first up is this nasty little piece of work, Cows by Matthew Stokoe. Not totally sure how to pronounce that one, but oh man, it was definitely one of the grossest books that I've read. But there's it's kind of also got a bit of a very dark sense of humor to it, and it deals with some interesting themes. Especially one of the ones that I thought was really interesting was, the main character sort of being raised with an idealized sense of what the world, outside of his very screwed up family life, actually looks like, and because of his exposure to a lot of television and there's a lot of really interesting themes in Cows, so it goes well beyond just being gross out, but it is very gross, and anybody that is thinking about reading it should do themselves a favor, and there's just realize the sort of content warning for literally everything in that one. So I mean, if it's nasty and you can imagine it, it's probably in there. So watch out for that one. Next up was another ebook. I read Off Season by Jack Ketchum. Off Season is a little bit, it's stacked up next to Cows. It's quite readable, but basically it's cannibals living in the Northeast, backwoods of the Northeast, and vacationers get attacked, and it's actually I thought it was pretty fun little horror story. I mean, it's there's some nasty stuff in there, and it's but I like Jack Ketchum. I think he's a lot of fun, and I haven't actually read the big one by him that The Girl Next Door. I have not read, so can't really comment on that. But I highly recommend Off Season, and also Offspring, which is the next one on the list for October and November that I read. Offspring is just a sequel to Off Season, and one of the things that I really like about these is that it inverts a lot of kind of genre expectations, and these this is specifically the uncut version that was published a while after the original version, but definitely subverts some expectations about, like, at the end, that there's going to be some rescue coming for these characters. Whew. So, you know, so next is some fantasy, some grimdark. And I do have hard copies for these. So it's The Warrior Prophet by R. Scott Bakker. And gosh, I mean, I have a lot to say about these. At some point, I'll probably do a like a full review of the whole trilogy, the Prince of Nothing trilogy. I do have the first book in the next trilogy, the Aspect Emperor series, I think is what those are called, but it's all part of the Second Apocalypse series. So, but there's a lot to say here. I think, like, I love them, but I have some issues as well that I think are worth discussing. Some of Baker's representations of women in these stories are problematic, to say the least, but also there's some very interesting ideas in here that are worth thinking about, worth taking seriously. And if you're willing to go along with sort of a grimdark fantasy world, and the world that he's set up here is it's very dark, especially in this one, toward the the middle to the end. You actually get finally a look into like some stuff about the backstory of the world that had been kept secret up to that point. That's oof. So I recommend it if that's your thing. It's great stuff. And so yeah, at some point I'll do a full video just about that trilogy, because it's worth some more in-depth discussion. Next up, I have Occultation and Other Stories by Laird Barron. Laird Barron is probably one of my favorite short story writers working in horror right now. If you haven't read that one, Occultation is excellent. I've also read The Beautiful Thing That Awaits Us All. Would really like to read the Imago sequence, probably going on my 2022 TBR list. But Occultation was great. Real standout stories in there are Mysterium Tremendum and Strepado. Strepado in particular is probably it's the horror comes from a little bit more mundane of a source than than is often the case with Laird Barron, because he tends to write a lot of it is sort of like cosmic horror, and Strepado is a much more human sort of horror. Definitely a little bit of Cask of Amontillado, Edgar Allan Poe influence there, but it's pretty grisly and pretty frightening, more in the implication than in what you actually see on screen, so to speak. But Strepado was great. Mysterium Tremendum is super cool, so I don't want to spoil too much of either of those. Mysterium Tremendum, definitely a more Lovecraftian kind of cosmic horror. It's a group of friends a couple of gay couples go off for a hike and find a little mysterious, what is it? It's the Black Guide. It's the name of a book that they find that leads them to some pretty scary stuff out in the woods. So don't want to spoil it beyond that. But great short story collection by Laird Barron there. So next I read the another ebook. It was the Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones, and that was really a lot of fun. His love of the slasher subgenre really comes through in that one, as it often does with him. It's the style. It feels almost like somewhere between a screenplay and a novel, which lends some magic to it that something that was more of a just a plain slasher would not have. So yeah, that one's great, a lot of fun. Then I read Salem's Lot, Stephen King. There are a lot of sort of King books that I know we all went through a King phase when we were teenagers, and I did too, but there's a lot of these that I didn't read then, and so I'm kind of trying to get to them now. And Salem's Lot was top of the list for things that I missed when I was younger that I really want to read now. And I'm really glad actually that I waited on this one, because there's some underlying themes that I thought were really interesting. I mean, it's it's about small town America and kind of the effects of deindustrialization on sort of rural decay, and in the 70s and the 80s, and in a lot of ways, it's also the vampires are definitely almost explicitly queer coded, and so there's a certain amount of townspeople blaming deindustrialization on the appearance of these sort of urban queer coded characters, and of course they are actually vampires in this case, but it has some interesting sort of somebody could probably do a very interesting sort of paper on this for like a senior level LGBT lit class or something in college, but yeah, or maybe it's freshman level. I don't know, but it's a fun story. I liked it, and so I also read another ebook. I read some more King, The Drawing of the Three, second Dark Tower. I read The Gunslinger a couple of years ago, and it was fine, but I didn't really feel compelled to continue with the series until now. And I think I'm going to continue trying to push through the series. I may make that one of my 2022 fantasy series that I'd like to get through. It's The Drawing of the Three is I think a big step up from The Gunslinger. It's sort of amps up the acid Western feel of the whole thing, which is cool. So yeah, it's a neat book. After that, some more of the Prince of Nothing trilogy, the last book in the Prince of Nothing trilogy. It's the Thousandfold Thought. And I don't really have a whole lot to say about that one beyond what I said about the warrior prophet. These really deserve a video of their own. There's some wild stuff in here, and this one in particular is delving a lot deeper into things that were revealed at the end of book 2. I don't want to spoil a lot in this video, so, and to get into this with any depth, there would be major spoilers. So, other than, if you're prepared for grimdark, read this. It's great stuff. The first book it took me a while to get through, because it's a little bit like Malazan, Book of the Fallen, where you're gonna encounter a lot of proper nouns that don't mean anything to you yet. There'll be a lot of looking stuff up in the glossary at the back of the book, and even then it's not going to mean a whole lot to you yet, and it won't mean anything for a while, but you just have to keep pushing through, and eventually it'll make sense. It's well worth it when it does. And after that, The Stand, some more King. On the one hand, The Stand does feel it does drag in a couple places, but overall, I thought this was great. This is a very it's one of his better, as far as it's a good one. If you're into horror, you probably know about this book. I won't go into too much detail about it, but it's a good one. And then I read, here's Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, some Douglas Adams. I needed something a little lighter in there, and that it definitely scratches that itch. It's a lot of fun, very quirky, absurd sort of. If you know Hitchhiker's Guide, you know kind of what to expect from Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. It's just a lot of fun. Highly recommend. I'd recommend that one to anybody. It's a good story. And then last but not least, I read a graphic novel. It was The Incal by Alejandro Jodorowski, and art by Moebius. The art's gorgeous. It does, I think, suffer a little bit from my usual complaint about Jodorowski, which is, if you've seen any of his movies, like Holy Mountain or El Topo, or some others, he packs a lot of ideas in, and whether or not he actually gives enough time and space to fully explore all of those ideas, I don't know. But there's a lot of ideas there, and it's neat stuff. And the Incal is, that to me, that's what space opera is really all about. Is it's these these big ideas. Some of them are kind of spiritual, and you know, big universe that's full of like some very wild, you know, wild stuff. And I'd, you know, that one, yeah, another hearty recommendation. But you know, with the recognition that, you know, you are getting it's a Jodorowski thing. You know, it's going to be weird, and there's going to be a lot thrown at you. So, otherwise, that about sums it up for October and November. I should have a December video, you know, a couple weeks down the road. Hoping to do a big video on the Prince of Nothing trilogy before too long, and you know, maybe something, maybe a 2022 TBR, and I have another book haul video coming up soon. I found some really neat stuff at local used bookstore. I won't give too much of it away, but some really neat classic fantasy books that are actually pretty rare, that I was very excited to find. So I'll catch up with all of you soon, and have a good one.